What's your financial goal?
You want more money? Turn what you know into dough. Start hanging out with the people who have it. You create wealth on your own terms. It is not only your rights, but your duty to build wealth.
You are fiscally fabulous,
And it's time to enjoy your legacy.
You're listening to Fiscally Fabulous with Dr. Teresa R. Martin, Esquire, a podcast that aims to provide you with the tools, guidance, and encouragement you need to build your wealth, enjoy your wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. Dr. Martin is an accomplished attorney, speaker, business consultant, and real estate strategist, an all-around self-made success who provides highly sought-after expert consulting in the creation, growth, and maintenance of generational wealth.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. We got a lot of stuff going on. Everyone in this day and age must be investing. Okay. And as I mentioned and did the rally call on Monday, I'm letting you know, playtime is over. If you are just dibbling and dabbling, or you just buying your time at a meetup group or what have you, and doing poachers and lotions and waiting for somebody to give you a deal, I'm letting you know that playtime is over. You need to get with a good realtor who is nationwide, who has connection nationwide, sorry. And if you find your market, you need to understand how to do numbers. I'm going to be sharing that about your performer, because anytime you bring a deal onto our RIA platform, we need you to actually understand how to read numbers and how to deliver numbers, because we're going to be asking you that, right? This is not a meetup group. We're not going to be talking about, I got a wholesale deal, I got a flip deal or whatever, and you don't know your numbers, okay? Here at RIA NYC Mastermind and Training, we are definitely doing things different. As Coach mentioned, if you are interested in global investing, if you're interested in a plan to invest internationally, we have some people who are investing already in Jamaica and some other places in Trinidad. We are starting our investment powerhouse and power tools in Ghana in 2026. So it's very important that we do real business, real time, the right way. So that's what RIA NYC is about. We are not playing games when it comes to real estate. We are doing all things real estate, all things business strategy. The goal is to grow wealth, and we need to do that in a systematic order, getting the right information. Okay, Mr. Paul Bali, the show is yours, sir.
Oh my goodness. How is everybody doing tonight?
Super fantastic and scared about what you're getting ready to drop on us.
And you should be scared. Because this is going to be the campfire at night story, the ghost story here. So I can't even tell everybody to go out and get like a stiff drink before we start, because they raised the tariffs on the Canadian vodka and the French wine and the tequila from Mexico. I read politics and economic stuff just for fun, because I'm weird that way, but I'm also a fan of history. So if you ever looked at any history, when they talked about like the background and the progress of World War II and Germany, how Germany invaded all those countries and took them over really, really quick, that was called the Blitzkrieg. And we're seeing the political equivalent of that right now. A little bit of that, plus a little bit of the culture like this. It's a little bit like, since we just got past the Super Bowl, it's a little bit of flooding the zone. So we're sending everybody out all at once. And it's just like a ton of stuff is being thrown out at everybody continuously. So we've only been in this new regime for about like 4 weeks now. And a couple things that we've already seen. One, definitely like one of the most lawless administrations that we've ever seen. And I can say that with facts because I have the receipts. This current administration, they're putting out so many executive orders. They're actually going around Congress and not actually getting stuff approved or voted on. People forget the executive branch. There's actually 3 branches of government. I have to go back and do like our school news reports and civic lessons. So Congress is supposed to be equal to the executive along with the judicial. But because all these executive orders are coming in and going around Congress, and they don't seem to be concerned about that. So it's a lot of like craziness that's being put out there. And because of that, in addition to all the firings and the remaking of the federal bureaucracy, we're starting to see, especially anybody who has any type of like legislative or oversight of this government has either been fired, reassigned, or just told like they've been replaced by somebody who's just going to overlook. So right now, all we have left is like the judicial to kind of like slow down. And a lot of the more egregious executive orders have been blocked in court. But that's just a matter of time until it gets up to the Supreme Court. It's all 50-50 what happens after that. But because of all the things that this super genius has actually done, I'm going to actually talk about a lot of this stuff, and we're going to realize how much of this stuff actually affects housing investing and everything that we do directly. So let's start off with the tariffs. And I couldn't put together a PowerPoint presentation because things are happening so quickly. I couldn't put anything to paper, even digitally. But even tonight, just like in the last hour or two, he announced that he was actually putting additional tariffs on all the countries that import goods into the United States. And like we said before, a tariff, even though on paper it looks like it's going to be paid for by the company that's importing it into this country, those costs will be passed down to the consumers, you and me, and we will end up paying higher prices for goods. So I'll go through a list of some of the goods that in real talk in a couple of weeks, but just know that one of the tariffs that he just put in yesterday was on aluminum and steel. I thought it was only going to be aluminum and steel imported from China, but it's actually hitting Canada too. And anybody who's doing any type of like building, rehab, or new construction, that's going to affect your bottom line. It's going to make your projects even more expensive to do. So when I was actually looking at getting back into the landlording and buying some property, I'm steering clear of that because, and I'll talk about a couple other things too, why I'm steering clear of actually owning actual property right now, at least for the time being. But we got tariffs, 10% on goods coming in from China. There's going to be tariffs on goods coming in from the EU. So even though these are our allies, Canada and Mexico, we have a trade agreement with them. That doesn't mean anything. So expect prices to go up there. And we're already starting to see inflation. This is a little bit too early. The most recent inflation report just came out, and inflation is already hitting 3%. And two of the biggest drivers of that are going to be our food and shelter. So I'll talk more about what the cost drivers are for shelter on the Real Talk call, but food is going to go up because we're tariffing a lot of the goods that come in from other countries. And we're making it harder for our farmers because you've heard about like big dust up about the Doge shutting down the U.S. aid offices. They contracted with a lot of our farmers to ship food out. So they're on the hook for the money that they thought they were going to get by selling their goods to for these groups overseas. Now they're stuck with that food that's rotting in the field. Oh, since we're on Doge, let's just talk about Doge for a second. Doge took me by surprise because I thought it was going to be an advisory group. I did not realize it was going to be a actual like a entity that was actually going to go into each government agency and just look at everything from top down, bottom up. So they went in, not only did they access the computers, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but the old federal government, until a couple of weeks ago, they did not have a common email. So everybody was kept separate. So Doge has come in, they've set up this like a group email for the entire federal government, which is okay if you're like a scientist, like in EPA or like a housing provider in HUD. But if you're like in the CIA or the FBI, I'm not sure if you want to have your information put out like that. But there's this big email chain going in there, and they're literally going in and checking all the records of everything. And one of the illegal, unconstitutional things that they've done is like they've frozen the spending that was approved by Congress, who has the power of the purse. Funding that was already approved, they froze that illegally. So that's one of the things that they were blocked at. But this group has said that they're going to ignore the judicial instructions. So this is where the constitutional crisis comes in, is can the executive branch ignore the ruling of the judicial, and how does the judicial enforce the rulings that they put down? So we'll get to see that. But so far, we've already seen that's like Coach mentioned, like CFPB has been pretty much decimated. In addition to U.S. aid, we've also seen cuts in potential cuts in FEMA. We've already seen cuts in the National Oceanic AA. Got what the AA stands for. We're also seeing cuts in NIH, Government Service Administration, and SEC. So FEMA is very important because we live in a world that has like a lot of climate changes. And if FEMA goes, if they remove government access and responsibility of addressing natural disasters from FEMA, disband that agency and push it back down to the states do not have the resources to handle a natural disaster on their own. So there was like a fake news that was going around that the red states weren't getting FEMA access, where they've already shown that in reality, the top 4 states that were getting FEMA funds and FEMA access were red states. So Texas, Florida, Louisiana, I forgot the 4th one. Oh, and North Carolina. They were the top recipients of FEMA funding. So if FEMA goes, and again, just more poor planning on the current administration. Now, let me talk a little bit about like the elimination of the education department, because that is really, you wouldn't think that would affect us as loan providers and investors, but it does. Because on the surface, what the education department does, not only does it standardize the curriculum across the entire country so that wherever you go, wherever you move, you know that your education that your kids are getting is going to be the same. But if it's now pushed down to the states, so say like you're relocating from Alabama and you're going into North Carolina. Now, because we have a local state governing that, is that education equivalent the same? Would they have to like either get bumped back or would they get left behind? It also controls like student loans, Pell Grants, lunch programs for poor kids. But most importantly, the education department also sends a lot of money to the states to fund their own local school system. So without that money coming from the federal government, that's actually going to have to be made up by the state. And will the states have the funds to actually make up that money? Are they going to have to raise our property taxes? Because part of our property taxes goes to funding local school districts where the federal government kicks in for the rest of it. So it holds down our property taxes so that we don't have to pay that money going in. And yeah. So yeah, we got that. Oh, there's like one other agency. Oh, that's the other agency, NIH. Forgot to mention that. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just got now confirmed as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So we got a vaccine denier controlling any kind of all the agencies that are responsible for investigating flus and pandemics, people who don't believe in vaccine. So we've already got issues with the avian flu now migrating away from poultry and onto like humans and cows. But we have groups that don't believe in science, so they believe in herd mentality. So you're on your own with that one. And then just real fast here, we'll go more into detail like the effects of the immigration and the deportation plan on Tuesday's call. One thing I'll be really interested in seeing is the next job market report that comes out in March. And it'll cover the February numbers, but we're starting to see a lot of tech sector layoffs. But most importantly, we're seeing a lot of like federal government layoffs. And we all think that the federal government is Washington, D.C. And no, it's not. The federal government is employees who are spread across the entire country. So when you are closing down or not providing funds for NIH, the people who do like cancer research and all this other research at all these different universities, it does affect the local economy. So now there's going to be that one decision that you would think would only affect the DC area, technically does affect the DC area, which includes Baltimore, Virginia, and Maryland. But depending on where some of these research centers are, we're talking about Alabama, we're talking about Mississippi, we're talking California, the Northeast, and Massachusetts. So a lot of like high-paying, good-paying jobs will now be coming off the market here, and we're going to see a increase in the job unemployment claims, which does put pressure on the Federal Reserve to actually lower interest rates. So that part will come down. Technically, will make things a little bit cheaper, but in the short term, inflation is still going up, so we're still paying more money for all the other tariffs that are being applied to all the goods that we're trying to buy. And then last two things here, March 14th, I think is the deadline where the funding for the federal government ends. They're supposed to extend it March all the way through to the end of the spending season, which is October or September 30th. So there's questions like if they can actually get a deal going on that, but they also have to raise the debt ceiling, which also gets hit in March. So they have to come to that agreement. On top of that, this is the last thing, and I predict that this will actually go through. is the permanent extension of the Tax Jobs and Tax Cut and Job Act from 2017. They're trying to do a gigantic reconciliation bill that rolls all this stuff together in one bill, because if they can do it as a reconciliation bill, they could pass it with simple majority. In the Senate, you need 60 votes to pass anything. So if they do it this way, roll everything in as a budget, they only need simple majority, 51 votes to pass this. So this would include the tax cut, border security, putting the military down on the southern border, building the wall down there, building the internment camp for the people that they get round up. And I find it very amusing that some of the people that they've been putting on the military planes to send back to other countries are people wearing like the MAGA hats. So that's funny, not funny kind of thing. But the most dire prediction that I have here, that if the tax cuts goes through, which I believe it will, we are going to see the first trillionaire in U.S. history. And that trillionaire will be Elon Musk. Think about that for a sec. One person controlling $1 trillion worth of wealth. And it's all being paid for by cuts to everyday citizens. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it's going down that definitely affects us in the industry. And we're still trying to analyze it to see like where we can actually have some room to maneuver. But the only good thing about it is like we will be, especially for anybody who has a formal business, you do get the advantage of deducting more things than you would if you were just a plain old W-2 person filing your taxes. So there will be that. So that's a lot of stuff I threw at you. I'm sorry I had to press you all. I've been living with this for 6 years.
Thank you so much, Paul.
For many women entrepreneurs, the struggle is real. We arose becoming stronger with every fight. Wealth is what we built from that together. A wealth of resources, a wealth of knowledge, and a wealth of powerful businesswomen. When you are ready to achieve financial freedom and become fiscally fabulous, call. It will not be wealth that empowered your success. It will be this call. EnjoyYourLegacy.com, 646-437-7139.
This is really the kind of conversation when you're talking about how do you add the economics, politics as it reflects or affects your real estate, right? And so that brings us to what we need to focus on moving forward is where's your money playing right now? Okay, where's your money playing at right now? Is it still playing in the bank? Is it still playing in your 401ks and things of that sort? And if we no longer become the global currency, how will that affect you? These are some of the questions that you need to be talking to your tax strategist about. You need to be talking to your attorneys about, setting you up, making sure that you're set up the right way. And Paul said something before everyone jumped on, and I'll bring that up after I bring up Latoya and Lorraine. But we got to pay attention. This is a lot going on, from your LLCs to your S Corps, your C Corp, and your monies and your 401ks, IRAs, and your SEPs, right? A lot of things going on. Whereas we used to be secure in federal jobs. Can we still say that right now? We're waiting on that pension. Is that the case right now? So there's a lot of things that we need to pay attention to, and everything is happening. And Stan had the right question. Right now, you need to look at why you think we're going, because re-NYC is always on the top, right? The top of the trend. We've been looking at investing outside of New York before this became a thing. And now we're definitely now moving towards that direction with the formations of our investment clubs and things of that sort. Latoya, I'm going to bring you up what they need to work on, and then also how they can get the information inside the.
Sure, but before I do that, one of the things Paul talked about, he talked about the dismantling of the CFPB, right? I just want folks to realize that if there's no longer an oversight, the credit bureaus might be less diligent about correcting those mistakes that are on your report. The criteria for loan lending, the banks can change that, right? There's no oversight for that. We might even go back to seeing predatory lending, right? We don't know what's in the future. So I'm imploring everyone to join Poachers Call so to hear about all those things and what he's going to explain, because it's really the time to start thinking about credit education and paying more attention to your credit. to make sure that you have a strong credit profile so that when you go to get funding, you don't get denied.
You
So-
forgetting, Georgia. I was actually going to say something on that, but you took that, so I don't want to steal your thunder. But you are absolutely right. I have changed my presentation 3 times already because the implications just keep getting worse and worse each day that goes by. So definitely we want people to tune in for that because I'm going to be dropping the thunder on what's going on because no more oversight. No more oversight means what for you in your everyday life. So back to you, but thank you for that.
Correct. No problem. In regards to tax liens, so we had that subgroup, that focus group on Tuesday, 2 days ago. Yes, can't keep track of the days. We had that focus group. It was very good. Folks came prepared with their homework. I was really impressed. I was proud.
I was
So,
ready.
we talked about, everyone reported on what state and county they were going to invest in and whether they're going to do tax liens or tax deeds or a combination. So that was good. But to say it verbally here, the homework for next time is to, between now and the next time, is now that you've identified the state and county that you're going to be involved with, go back now and look at the date for the next upcoming tax sale. So you want to know when the date is. You also want to know what the requirements are for participating. So what is required for registration? What forms of payment do they accept for registration? Is it the same form of payment that is accepted for registration that it's also accepted for final bidding amounts? Because sometimes it's not the same form of payments. So just get yourself familiar with what the rules are for that particular county because the rules are not the same across the state and across the country. All right. In addition to that, also wanted folks to get the list for the next upcoming auction. Now, I know that depending on what county you chose, the list may not be available as yet, right? Usually the list will be available 30 days prior to the sale. So if it's not available as yet, try to get one from the previous sale because we will be doing hands-on through step-by-step next time we meet about how to navigate that list, how to review it, how to narrow it down, things of that sort. We also touched last time about market, knowing your market. Like I said, if you missed that presentation, definitely go back and look at it so that you can come prepared for the next time we meet. All right. There's a lot of sales going on, guys. A lot of sales are going on. So this is the time to really hone in on where you want to be and put it on your calendar when the next date is so you don't miss the registration. All right. Thank you.
For those people who don't know, Natoya, tax liens, they need to be prepared with tax liens and how much should they have in their reserve for them to look at tax liens.
So I say a minimum of 5,000. And the reason you could definitely get tax lien less than 5,000, depending on what market you're in. But the 5,000 is so that you don't have to go back into your pocket for any additional money. So if you're looking to get your first lien, the 5,000 will include the acquisition. The 5,000 will include in the event that, and when I say acquisition, the bid, in the event that the homeowner does not redeem and you have to get the physical property, the 5,000 will also include legal fees, right? And any additional fees that you'll have to pay to the county for recording and stuff like that. And then there might be some taxes depending on the gap that you'll have to cover after you've acquired it. So the 5,000 is super nuts that you'll need to get started for your first one. And then once you get the process going and you just reinvest those funds and then you're off to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Natoya. So if you're interested in tax liens and you want to be a part of that group, just make sure you get that information inside the tax lien focus group. Miss Lorraine, are you able to come off mute or do you want me to tell them what they need to do? There you go.
So a couple of things that I wanted to share, especially I know the tax strategy group is pretty new to Rhea and to everyone on the call. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we did on the first call. So we started at the foundation of kind of doing the ABCs as it relates to tax strategy and to tax planning. And so we're going to be building upon that first focus group into more in-depth. We're actually going to get into the foundations of essential tax planning. And so if you weren't aware, right now we're in tax filing season. So I know a lot of people consider it tax season in general, but this is actually tax filing season where you're preparing your information, you're preparing your documents to actually file your tax return. But if you're in business or if you're an active real estate investor, this is actually the beginning of your overall tax season. And so you want to start putting things in place. You want to start making sure that you're aware of certain deductions and credits so that you're not leaving money on the table. So we're going to be talking about what you should be paying attention to include in your tax filings for your return, but then also plans and strategies that you could be putting into place to make sure you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of the year. So we're going to be getting into a lot of the specifics as it relates to tax strategies and tax planning to make sure that if you don't already have a trusted tax advisor on your team, I can help you make sure that you're asking the right questions to either get a trusted tax advisor on your team or to make sure that you're putting the right things into place so that you're setting yourself up for success. And I guess I want to piggyback a little bit on what Paul mentioned, what Latoya mentioned, and what Coach mentioned in terms of the CFPB being eliminated is a whole situation in itself, but you want to make sure like you can utilize taxes as a funding resource for yourself. I also mentioned this in the article that I published for the magazine. Like lenders are looking at your tax returns, right? In terms of what kind of money you're bringing in, what you're spending on expenses. So you want to make sure that's leveraged, but you're also wanting to use that as a potential liquidity source depending on what deductions and what credits you're making yourself eligible for, that you can have more cash flow to be able to invest in more real estate or to be able to expand your business. So I really want people to utilize what you're doing in taxes is not just thinking of how much I have to pay, but how much I can save to be able to reinvest that into your business or into your investments. I really encourage everyone to come to the call with questions, but also, do you already have a strategy? Because if you don't, that's one reason why you should be on the call. But then if you already do have a strategy, let's make sure that's optimized for exactly what you're doing and not just throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. And that's really another thing that we were talking about on the calls. There's a lot of misconceptions as it relates to taxes. And I want to make sure that you're not just picking things out of the air, whether it's from YouTube University or whatever you're hearing on the Instagram reels, but just making sure that what you're hearing, you can actually leverage and take advantage of to be able to work that for your business and investments. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone on the call, and let's talk taxes. Let's be excited about taxes. I know I'm excited about taxes. And so I want to help everyone be a little bit more excited about it too, because it can really work to your benefit if you have the right partners and the right people on your team.
Generational Wealth Zone is the leading resource center for driven female entrepreneurs. Join our supportive community and benefit from expert consulting and a mastermind group of like-minded winners. The future successful professional has a business coach, and the future is here, period. EnjoyYourLegacy.com.
The legislative committee is such an important committee. One of the things that I was telling Coach, I don't know if it was yesterday, my days are all mixed up, so it could have been today, I don't know. But Constitution, like a lot of people are talking about constitutional rights, a lot of people are talking about the Bill of Rights, and a lot of people are talking about a lot of things. But the question that I always ask is, there is a lot of talk. How many people have actually read the Constitution, right? And to know what is in the Constitution, right? Because a lot of times we just go by what other people are saying and we just take it face value, right? And like the interpretations, right? It's like when you go to church, you take the pastor's word instead of going back and read the word yourself, right? So it's really important that you really understand like the legislation that is being put forth, the bills that's being proposed, so that you can have a position, right? We always say, stay on top of the news. If you see something, share it with your fellow peers and let them know why they should be looking at this article, or did you see this would happen? Just make sure, because you want to pass information across different channels, because sometimes you don't see things that come in and you want to delve deeper, right? So that's what the legislation committee does. It is like a hub of information. So they're looking at federal, they're looking at state, they're looking at city, they're looking at a whole lot of different things that's going on, and they need manpower to help them do that, right? Because that's how they bring it to you. So I encourage you, if you have any interest in learning about what's going on, please join the legislative committee and be a part of it. It really is important. So I'm just going to ask people to just come off mute and just introduce who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for as far as networking. Are you looking for a property? Are you looking for a partner? Are you looking for information or what have you? So let's get a couple of people to give their 30-second elevator pitches. I promise on this one, we won't critique it. We just want to know who you are. So who wants to open up the mic and share who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for?
Dr. Martin, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce Mr. Luis Guerrero. He's a person who I've known for a while. He's connected to a group that I have over there in New Jersey. And Mr. Guerrero, if you can unmute yourself, please introduce yourself and tell everybody briefly what you do.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the invite today, Coach Moore. I really appreciate it again. So yeah, my name is Luis Guerrero. Own and operate my own wholesale business. Currently, I actually have 3 deals that I'm currently looking for active buyers for. I've been doing real estate now for over 5 years, full time. Haven't had W-2 income since 2019. So decided to go down the path of real estate, and it's led me to good things so far. I'm excited to get to know everybody in here. I'm looking for anybody looking to invest, talk about real estate. If anybody has questions in regards to wholesale, I'm happy to connect with you and discuss some strategies and see what you're looking to do. But yeah, very nice to meet you all in here, and I hope to get to meet you guys in person one day.
Awesome. Thank you, Luis. Drop your contact in the chat for us. Awesome. Anyone else? Okay. So I always promise I ain't gonna say nothing. Okay. I always say, and then you make me say something. How can you be on a networking group session and you don't open your mic? I don't get it. I'm confused. So what are you here for? Are you here to network? Are you here to learn? If you just here to learn, it's fine. But let us know who you are and what you're looking for. So open up your mic. Let us know. You ain't got to get on. You ain't got to get on camera tonight, but let us know who you are. So, Cindy. No.
Okay. Hi. I'm glad that I was able to get the Zoom link to show up tonight. My name is Cindy on social media, Cindy Jordan, but my last name is Cindy Reese. I'm in the DMV area. I am been a landlord for 20 something years. I have a few properties scattered around. And right now I have a few of my rentals empty. And so the season that I am now is to try to get those rentals full. Right now, since it's slow, snow, cold, that sort of thing, I'm not getting the foot traffic to fill my units.
Got it. And Cindy, are you listed with a realtor, or you're doing these for rent by owner?
So right now I've been doing rent by owner. Okay. And so I've given myself a deadline. Hey, if I can't fill it by really in a couple of weeks, then I need to find a realtor to do that. But then I'm in the mindset of now I got to take the time to find a realtor to build a relationship with the realtor in order to list my properties.
Got it. Drop your contact in the chat. Did you join REIA NYC? I know you sent emails and stuff like that.
I've sent emails, but I haven't been able to join yet because it slipped my mind. And then I'm in another group that said, hey, you are on tonight. I said, oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't click the buttons to join.
Okay.
So
because I want to send you something. National REIA has a resource for rent by owner, and they have an account with apartments.com and some other places that you might want to just add your stuff to while you're in this season of trying to do it yourself. And then before you get a realtor, I always suggest a realtor because they just know and they can do the marketing and all that kind of stuff. But while you're in this season, do there. But definitely, if you don't start getting any foot traffic or whatever, make sure that you go to a realtor.
Okay.
To help you with that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
And then I'll join tonight.
Okay. Yes, Shabna.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Shobna Bhatnagar. I'm out of Stamford, Connecticut. And currently I am wholesaling in the Pittsburgh area, greater Pittsburgh area. I did my first campaign in October. It was quite a good one. I got a lot of leads from there. So there are two that I'm still closing on. One of them is closing on 17th of March. And the other one I found a buyer with a JV. Hopefully we'll close that. And my second mail campaign has gone. So I'm just waiting for people to call. But in the meantime, also looking at Zillow and Craigslist and other places, Trulia, to find if there are houses or apartments or houses which are vacant, which have been on the more than 180 days they have been on the market, but nothing has happened. So my goal is that every day I'm able to find at least 2 such properties and then based on my assessment, put an offer. So that is what my goal is. And once I start getting the sellers calling me, maybe then I will probably have to focus on that. Just wanted to let people know that.
No, awesome. And Natasha and/or Sandy, I don't know which one's online. Natasha's name was Sandy's picture. They were in the Pittsburgh area. Definitely want to connect with them inside the portal. I think I mentioned them before for you to
Yes,
connect.
I contacted
good.
one of them. And I
Okay.
sent a message, but I'm not sure whether they received my message or probably they did not know who I was.
Okay, cool. So now they're calling you out, Ferrari sisters. You guys should reach out to you, and you guys didn't respond to her. So get in that portal and you respond to her.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shavna. All right, who else?
Everybody.
Hello, everyone.
And I
Go
bring
ahead,
the community
Lori,
events
and then
to-
Lynette. Go ahead.
I'm
Lori.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Lori. Then we'll go a little bit.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing
and I bring the
fantastic.
community. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You can hear me?
We're
Okay.
doing super fantastic. So one of the things I want to show you down. So you asked us how we're doing. I told you how I'm doing. You was going straight into your presentation. You ain't waiting to see how I was doing.
I'm sorry. I'm so glad y'all are doing super fantastic on this beautiful Thursday evening where we are all on the RIA meeting call, getting that knowledge. And I'm excited because I bring the community events to everybody. And we had a phenomenal event during the GW5 where we created cards. And I don't know if you got to share with them, Teresa, about the thank you note that we received.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll let you do that. So I look forward to bringing more community events to the group. And my focus is on the tax liens. And this year, my goal is to also get involved with fractional. And I look forward to also continuing my financial education groups that I do too. And I'm very disappointed that the CFPB board has been dismantled too. But thank you. I look forward to
Absolutely
meeting
crazy.
everybody as well.
Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you. That's Dr. Lori Nicholas. That is our community service chair. She brings all things community service. Now, Miss Livette, and then we'll go to Miss Lauren. Miss Livette, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you guys? Nice to see everybody tonight.
To see you.
Thank you for inviting me, Coach Moore. I was interested in the tax information, but once I heard about the tax liens, I think that my sister and I would definitely look into joining I think you said it was Elite or another one below that to try to really get it.
Elite. Yeah.
Core and then the Elite. We need to find out information on that because I'm 5 years to retire and I don't know if I'm going to make it. So I need to think of something outside the box so that I won't be caught up in the whole waiting for my checks. I need to make more active decisions, more creative and active decisions so that I can supplement just in case with everything that this gentleman was talking about earlier, it was very scary. I do watch and I do stay focused, but for him to be able to break it down to the point where where the aluminum is going to affect the tax, it just was very scary. So I appreciate you again, Mr. Coach Moore, for inviting me, and I definitely will be talking to you soon in regards to joining up. Thank you.
Thank you on that. Thank you for coming and checking us all out. We're very welcome to have you. Thank you. Miss Lauren.
Good evening. My name is Lauren, and I was invited by Velma Knight.
we chat a lot in the sauna and talking about real estate. I've been a landlord for 40 years. And 30 years ago, I bought property out of the country and I lost it because I didn't probably do the right homework. And so I'm not really, and I don't want to be a landlord anymore. I'll have my home, but I'm not interested in buying property and becoming a landlord. What I'm really trying to do is to build a portfolio for my son. They're not going to have Social Security 20, 30 years from now. And he needs to put together, or we need to put together a portfolio that will last him for his generation. And if he has any children, to live comfortably. I'm also interested in, yes, take another chance in investing out of the country. I'm interested in tax liens. And also, I wanted to join the meeting tonight to see who was there, to networking, get information. I'm very interested. I probably will join. And so this was my first meeting, and I was very impressed with the information that I got. And I look forward to meeting people in person and doing some more networking.
Awesome. Where are you? Where do you currently reside, Miss Laura?
In Westchester.
Okay.
In Westchester, in Mount Vernon. And I had bought 25 years ago, I bought a 2-unit condo in St. Thomas, and I lost it after paying mortgages for 10 years. And I also bought a 3-family in Savannah near the waterfront, which I sold because I didn't have a good property manager and he wasn't taking care of the property, wasn't getting the tenants. I was spending more money in terms of moving out and moving in than I was in terms of getting rent. I wish I had held on to that property. I did make some money selling it, but it was on the list of historic homes in Savannah. And so I saw that the value has increased tremendously. Good neighborhood. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that when you buy, I think, I'm not an expert, you buy neighborhood and not house or property. And it's the most important thing is you talk about doing your homework, doing your research, doing the numbers. And I think I've learned through the losses, I've learned a lot. As I said, I'm retired. I'm a septuagenarian, but I would like to build a portfolio for my son so that he is more comfortable than I am. Because they're saying that young people now are not going to live as well as their parents. I don't want to make that a prophecy.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I asked that question for a reason. One of the reasons our parent company, NYC, is the real estate arm of what we do, Ms. Lauren and everyone on the call. Generational Wealth Zone is our company, right? And we started that company because we wanted to bring generational wealth and break the chains of generational poverty, making sure that we retire 1 generation up and 4 generations down. That was the whole purpose of forming that. And one of the things when you said that you no longer want to be a landlord, and that's where I am, and everybody on this who's a part of RIA knows I'm done. I'm done with tennis, toilets, and trash. I'm a lien lord now. It's all about liens, all about paper. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't want anybody calling me in the middle of the night talking about some toilet. I'm done. But with that, even if you want to be a landlord, we have things that we have in place now for turnkey. We have turnkey models in about 8 states where we have everything boots on ground, should you want to do rentals anymore. We do have tax liens. We do have mortgage notes. We do have alternative paper strategies where you can get involved to help you build that portfolio. And we also have fractional real estate, right? And the fractional real estate, everything that we do starts at like $5,000, right? Because fractional, you get fractional shares. And many people on this line are fractional shareholders of investment deals. There's plenty of ways to help you build or rebuild a portfolio, right? I just wanted to say that because you are in the right place. We're not about talking about stuff that we're not doing. Everyone you heard for are active investors. And I'm going to bring up Diane and Barbara because they haven't spoken, but everyone that you hear on the call are not just, we just invested like 5-10 years ago, right? No, this is active investing, right? Because things change, right? Things that we did in 2019, we can't do right now, right? So you got to make sure that you're up on the investment trends and making sure you understand the market strategies for that. So welcome to the call. So you and Lizette, welcome. Really appreciate you coming in and just checking us out. Diane and Barbara, We say them together, right? They're two individuals, but we say them together. They Diane Barber.
Synonymous. Good evening, everyone. Just want to give a plug for the Done For You real estate. It is incredible. We got a property through them. Really no hassle. Great.
And you guys came to RIA as already doing investing, right? So let them know what you've done. You've done oil investing. You've done some stuff. Just give them a gambit of who you are, because all they see is your name when you jump on. So let them know who you are. I want them to know who's a part of RIA.
Okay, we're nurses by day and investors by evening. We do buy and hold, we do notes. Haven't dipped our toe in the water with tax liens or tax deeds yet, but it's coming. Looking forward to that. And honestly, really before we joined RIA, we really didn't explore this stuff too much. So we are very grateful to Teresa for introducing us to many other strategies. And so thank you, Teresa.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
And a little side note, we're going to be starting a podcast soon. We have to just work up the nerve. It's going to be for nurses. It's going to be called Nurses Off the Beaten Path, to bring them actually into alternative investment strategies, one of which is real estate.
Awesome. So you make sure that you let me know when you launch your podcast, because I want to put you on my radio platform. I will be honored to host your podcast on my radio. I'll get a little jazz and get a little bit of real estate. So make sure you let me know when that launches, and and then we'll do a write-up with the Fiscally Fabulous magazine as well. For all those people who don't know, we have a magazine, radio, and podcast going on. That's my little plug. But anyway, so yes, thank you so much, Diane Barber, for introducing yourself. Does anybody else want to say anything before I go into something that I really want to talk about credit? Yeah, about credit. Anybody else? Let me get Jocelyn, because she's walking. Then I get you, Florence.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm Jocelyn. I'm currently a nurse, so I like to see that there's other nurses in here. I don't have no experience in real estate investing, so my goal is to buy my first investment property and just learn where to start, how to start, because like I said, I have no experience.
Awesome. Inside the portal, Diane Barber, I'm going to ask that you take Jocelyn under your wing as nurses and seasoned investors, and just lend her your ear and your guidance.
Thank
awesome.
You.
You're welcome.
Hello, thanks.
Florence. Yes.
Hi, I'm Florence Copsinte. I am in Alexandria, Virginia. So this is the metro area like Cindy. I am new to real estate investing. I'm interested in tax liens. In fact, I joined Natoya's program. So with programs, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to buy my first tax lien soon. I also joined Fractional, and I made my first investment yesterday with Fractional, which is a 60-unit pad split. So I joined with others on this investment. So yeah, really excited, really glad I joined RIA NYC. I'm also looking to get my first property this year, depending on how things go with what's going on in DC. But I think for now, my focus will be tax liens, tax deeds, joint ventures on Fractional, or investing with others. So I'm interested in investing with others.
Awesome. Congratulations on joining the tax lien cohort. And that's awesome. I can't wait to hear great things for you to do. That's Natoya's Done With You program. So if everybody who don't know what that is, she has a cohort where she does it with you and she walks you all the way through your first auction. So that is awesome. Awesome. So congratulations on joining the cohort. All right. So let me share some stuff, because we can't get off without learning something, right? One of the things that I'm going to share is how many people, and if you got your cameras off, just drop it in the chat. When you look at a property, do you know what goes into your pro forma? Does everybody know what goes into a pro forma? Got some realtors on here. We got some wholesalers on here. We probably got some flippers on here. It's really important, James, I know, because you have to look at your performance, but it's really important to understand the pro forma. So let me just share with you, and this is some of the stuff that we go over inside Real Talk, and that's open to all member levels, right? And Paul is really good at digesting and helping you understand markets and helping you with an analysis and stuff. But let me just share. This is an example, right? So whenever you're doing your real estate and your analysis, you want to know what the property is and what it looks like. And normally right now, a lot of deals, you have to put 25% down, right? If you're doing leverage, right? Gone are the days, unless you're a property manager and you can throw some other monies to it, whatever. But this is a property in Oklahoma City. That's one of our turnkey markets. But I just want to show you what stuff looks like, right? So we already know that this is going to be like a 25% down. Okay. So basically, when you're looking at what the purchase price of the property is, this purchase price is about $198,000. Okay. You want to know what your top is. A top is your total out of pocket, right? So that's a top. So that goes into property management costs. If it's a turnkey and you're investing out of state, you want to know like how much you got to pay for property management, how much money you're going to have to pay for your closing costs and all the things that go along with that. You also want to know as far as what your return on investment, right? Your average annual return on your investment. And then you want to know your cash on cash return. But the combined cash on cash return, the way that our teams do it, it's a little different because it's not just a straight after repair value, which is so nonsensical. Because the market is so crazy, to still be doing an after repair value is crazy because there's a lot of things right now that's going into the after repair value. So the way that you're analyzing deals is not going to be the same as how you analyzed deals last year, right? So it's going to be really important that you understand how to, one, put together a pro forma if you're offering a product, a property, and also how to read one if you're actually being offered a property. Right? You want to make sure we do a 10-year, right? Because we do short-term buy and hold. If you're in that turnkey type of market, we do 10-year averages, and then we do reinvestment monies and things of that sort, right? So it's really important that you see the numbers that go in here. So if you're looking on the side, let me just try to make this a little bigger. Okay. So if you're looking on the side where the property analysis is for one of our done-for-you clients, right? It was created in November. They don't have a coach because we do coaching, but the down payment is 25%. The estimated interest rate is 6.12, and their property management fee is about $11.88, right? But then they do the projected appreciation average, the annual rent increase average, and the actual closing cost for future sale. Because when you get the property, how are you going to exit that property? Right? So these are some of the things they put into their property purchase information. And then they give you the property financing details, right? So you want the monthly rent, the principal interest, the monthly taxes and insurance, your PITI, and what that actually looks like, right? And then you also want to look at your real estate investment details, right? The loan amount. You want to look at the down payment, closing costs, all those things that come in there. We all know that kind of stuff, right? Our team charges a team's fee. There's a fee that once you close, if you don't close, you don't pay the team anything, but if you do close, you pay that. Here is the 10-year numbers that they work out for you. When I say they, this is our team, right? Anytime we're buying in different markets, you're always going to be issued a pro forma so that you actually know what the numbers actually look like, right? So you want to know how much money you want to get per door. You want to know if you want to hold it for 5 years and then you're going to sell it, if you want to sell it as all cash, or you want to sell it as a lease option or creative financing, you want to hold it, you want to create a note. However you want to get that done, it's important for you to work with your tax strategist and your teams person to find out what it is. And then you always want to know the actual definitions of stuff. A lot of times people say, okay, the appreciation, the cash on cash return, and they'll also talk about, I already told you what the top means, the total out of pocket or whatever. They'll just let people say things and they don't question, what does that actually mean, right? So I want you to get into the habit when you are participating in a RIA NYC event, and I don't care if it's a mentor event, Fiscally Fabulous event, a conference, a seminar, whatever it is, I want you to feel comfortable asking your questions, right? Because that is the only way that you're going to get your questions answered. So a part of why I wanted to show this is because on Real Talk, we're going to go dissect a market, and we're going to have to talk about specific markets or whatever the case may be. Every month is going to be a different market that we talk about. Sometimes people might have more information or they want more information, so we might revisit a market. But we're going to try to get to different markets that our members are actually investing in, if they have told us what markets they're investing in, so that we'll be able to do a deep dive or high level, depending on how much knowledge we know about that. So this is pretty much what I want everyone to learn. I want you to learn how to read a pro forma, and I also want you to learn how to put together a pro forma. You can put a pro forma together with your tax strategist or anyone who's helping you do a deal. Okay, they should know how to do a pro forma. Anyone presenting you a deal who don't know numbers that you asked for that would be on a pro forma, then you got to take a moment of pause, because why don't they know that? It's really important that we as investors are no longer going to just allow people to just tell us stuff and sell us stuff. We need to understand what it is that we're doing, right? That's why you need professionals on your team, okay? For me, as a real estate bankruptcy foreclosure defense attorney and a real estate investor for over 25 years of my life, and also helping people raise up their emotional IQ and their investment IQ in this game is really important. And I mentioned this, we have a fantastic network of people helping raise people up, because it doesn't matter if you have a real estate coach, it doesn't matter if your coach is a millionaire. Is she or he making you become one, right? And so that's how you want to always look at stuff, always lifting everybody else up. Now, I might have to leave you if you're taking too long. Now, I might have to leave you, but I'm trying to bring you with me, right? So that is, I'm very happy to say that we have a phenomenal team around us that's helping me. And I didn't do it all by myself. We have a whole team that shares in that. So now, with that said, how do we do that? We do that because we don't just focus on the holistic, we focus on the holistic aspect of business, right? It's not about just getting that real estate deal, right? So how many of you, and I know a couple of you because I'm looking at you, but how many of you have actually built business credit, right? Coach is going to be talking about personal credit, owner's credit. Very important for you to understand, because if you don't have good owner's credit, and we're talking about 760 to 790, 760 to 790 is what they're actually looking at when they're looking at now great owner's credit so that you can buy down some of your terms. So we are real estate investors, and we know we try to do OPM, right? We want to do other people's money, hell, other people's time, resources, other people's everything, right? So we want to make sure that we're in position to do that. So in order for us to start looking at our credit and then start using it as an asset, what we want to focus on is the 10, right? And I mention this all the time, but it's not going to change. You want to have at least 10 reporting trade lines on your business. Some of you don't yet have a business. You're still working in sole proprietorships or things of that sort, but you really need to be talking to Lorraine about tax strategies and things of that sort. But you really want to be protected in an entity, right? So you either want to be an LLC, you want to be a subchapter S Corp or a C Corp or what have you. But you know what you are, you have to look at your taxes and where you're investing, because legally, everyone always asks me, what should I do? I like LLCs because it's limited liability. However, I don't know how that will affect your tax basis, right? Because I don't know where you're investing and what that means. I just can protect you legally, right? In an LLC or land trust or something like that I create. But you need to make sure that if you are talking to your attorney, is also talking to your tax strategist, right? It might be a CPA, it might be a CPA and a tax strategist and a bookkeeper, right? They all need to be on that same call. So as a business owner, you want to separate your EIN from your social. I don't care what they're saying online about you can do and get this without good credit. Don't worry about your personal credit and all that. It's garbage. All right. It's not true. Okay. Because at some point, you're going to have to rely on your personal credit. That's why you need to do it simultaneously, side by side. So what does that look like? So when we say you want 10 reporting trade lines, we want to make sure that you can get products and services that your business is going to need, and then defer that payment on a 30-day basis, which we call a net 30, right? As we call it, net 30, right? Because that's going to help you ease your cash flow, right? We don't want to go out and buy things and now we buying down and using our cash and things of that sort. We want to get something called starter account, vendor account, and we call them net 30. So that's your first homework assignment, right? You want to make sure that you research and find out about net 30 accounts, right? Then when your net 30 account reports a trade line to DMB, which is part of the DUN system, that's going to activate your file. Usually some people just go to DMB and they just start opening up a file. Wrong way to do it. Wrong way to do it. You shouldn't do it that way, right? So you should always get a trade line that's going to report organically anyway. That way, now you don't have duplications. Everything is going to be set up right. And that's how you need to do it. And it's also true. It's true for DMB on the DUN system, but it's also true for Experian and Equifax as well as Credit Safe. What a lot of people don't know is that our elite members, anything that you get with RIA NYC or Generational Wealth Zone, that's $1,000 or more, even if you do it on terms, we report that as a business trade line. So we basically give that right back to you to help you build business credit, right? So a lot of things that we try to do is make sure that everybody understands that these are some of the things that you need to look at so that you'll be in position to take advantage of it, right? So some vendors that you want to be careful with, they'll approve your company for net 30 payments upon just verification of an EIN number, right? It don't take that much. You can have an EIN number and be listed at 411 and get approved for a net 30 account. So it's not that difficult to get approved for that, but it's very simple to do. But what's simple to do, most people don't do. I want to tell you that. And then what else I want to tell you about the net 30s? Oh, always apply without your social first. If you have a business set up. Now, if you ain't got no business and you ain't got no virtual office and you ain't got stuff really set up that they're going to be looking at, then don't do it until you find out what things they're going to be looking at. And obviously, as a RIA NYC member, you know that we gave you the lender compliance. We gave you the checklist on how to build business credit the right way. But for those people who are just guests on this call, you want to make sure that what the lender compliance items are before you start applying for things, because if you apply for something and you don't get approved, that can also be looked upon at other vendors or creditors by saying, oh, they didn't approve them, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to stand behind them and see who approves them because they don't want to take the risk, right? So some vendors will just require you do a prepaid order before they can approve your business for net 30 or have a minimum of net 30 orders, right? But the one thing that I mentioned on our Monday's call is that the one thing that's different between business credit and personal credit is that when you get business credit, you have to use it every month. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to get this business credit card and I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to pay it off and I ain't going to use it again for 4 months. That's not how business credit works. So until you're ready to start using the business credit, I would tell you don't get business credit because you have to use the business credit continuously. Okay, because that's how they build it up. How you pay before it's due, that builds up your business credit score. So it's just a little bit different. And we're going to go into some of the nuances a little bit on Coach's call because I'm going to talk about the nuances, but he's really going to be focused on owner's credit, the basics of owner's credit and what that means, especially in this new economy. And then you want to have at least a total of 5 net 30 trade lines, 5 net 30 trade lines reporting on DMB, Experian, Equifax, and I would even say Credit Safe because that's the baby of business credit agencies. But definitely Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax, and have at least those 5 reporting net 30s. And then use those net 30s each month, like I mentioned, and then pay those net 30s in full at least 10 days. So on business credit, you want to pay at least 10 days early. Okay. And the whole goal for that is that we want to be seen as low risk. The last thing that, around this, and we're going to be talking about this a lot, but remember, I just always want to give you nuggets to leave with. But as far as the business credit is concerned, you want to make sure that you allow for the vendors in their reporting cycles, their natural reporting cycles to get into the reporting systems. Sometimes it takes about 3 cycles for net accounts to actually show and build on your business credit score. So it's not going to always be an immediate thing. Sometimes they have a reporting cycle of 1 cycle. Sometimes it's the average is 3, but sometimes it's as much as 4, right? So you just want to make sure that you understand some facts around starter accounts. Starter accounts or vendor accounts is similar to personal starter accounts, secure cards, right? That's what this is, but it's on the business credit side. So while Coach focuses on the personal and the owner's credit, I'm 100% focused on B2B on the business credit side. And the more monies we have access to in the business credit side is the more monies that we now have to deploy in real estate. So what I'm looking to do, and this is one of the things that I'm helping my coaching clients do, is one of the things that we want to do is we want to see how much business credit we can get so that when we get ready to go to Ghana in 2026 to purchase, that they're basically able to leverage their business credit so that they have the cash to deploy and then get the rest on financing. Because usually in Ghana and some of these other places, you might have to do a 40 to 50% down payment. Where are you going to get that 40 or 50% down payment? If you're looking at something like $150,000 investment, we need $75K. Where are you going to get that? So look at the goal of properties going forward. Let's just round it up to 200,000. Right? At 200,000, that gives us an idea because the goal of REIA NYC is to help you get a 100K challenge, right? To get to 100K in your first year. So if we really hone in and do all the things that we need to do to get to 100K in discretionary income or in revenue that we can deploy into some investment opportunities, how awesome is that? So this is one of the things that I wanted to just share with you for vendor credit and how to start looking at your personal credit, to start leveraging that, to start getting into some more business credit leverage so that you can be able to take advantage of that. That was our training for tonight.
This has been Fiscally Fabulous with Dr. Teresa R. Martin, Esquire. If you would like to learn more on how you can build generational wealth and leave a lasting legacy, go to www.enjoyyourlegacy.com and be sure to subscribe. Thank you for listening. Until next time.